lesson for all the world. Now, what we hear of Ukraine is 5%.
Yes, if
We
proven.
don't know what is that in Ukraine. Nobody knows. The Americans are there. The NATO is there fighting.
Yeah.
Everybody is fighting. And they want this man down. At what cost they want him down? They want the Americans to teach them that we are the masters. Now, next to the American is a wild, very wild man, which is China. I don't think America will leave China as is within the coming 10 years. There is no way. There is no way. يعني they America they
Otherwise, it will take over. Yeah.
معلوم شوف what happened for example democracy الآن in Japan Hiroshima
اه
شو
لا طبعا.
nobody talks about Hiroshima who have sent bombs over here B-50 or did the Arabs have it? No, United States of America and Japan is the first now ally to
The
the
Arabs
US.
just sit
Politics
around and
is a
receive
dirty
stuff.
game, unfortunately, my friend. And this is where we are guided today by these books and what's so-called democracy and what's so-called this, and they teach us
Human
what-
rights.
Oh,
Human
human
rights.
rights.
Is there human rights?
Where are human rights? Where did they get this word
Rule
from?
of law. Rule of law. Those are
شيك شو هذا؟
the rule of law, democracy, and human rights. That's what America promotes.
بس أنا
And
I'm
it
not
promotes that in theory, but in practical, if one of those concepts conflict with what they perceive as their national security, then they would violate it. A stark example is the conflict here in Israel-Palestine. They see that it's in their best interest that the Jews get all shipped here and congregate here and control this area, despite many human rights violations, despite democratic violations.
words on it, words on it. And I believe that this has to come to an end one day.
It will, and it
It
will.
will.
There
It will.
is no way on earth. When I was in
It-
school, you remember we studied Napoleon, Mussolini, Montgomery,
So-
and Hitler. Monday.
So the way it goes, it is not sustainable.
Absolutely. Not at all. Not at all.
And it will come to an end, as you mentioned, with the proper education
Only.
and the proper reframing of this conflict.
Exactly.
This conflict has to be reframed properly because it's been diagnosed the wrong way, and that's why it's continued. It has to be diagnosed the right, correct way.
Now, I come to this very important point. If you go, for example, in the Arab world, look at the higher echelons in Egypt, from the prime
Yeah.
minister and down. My friend, somebody who's clever, they don't want him. They tell the president, take this man out, احنا ويوم خواجه يا بيه يا باشا سلام عليك.
Because
We-
it's a threat to them. That's what
Absolutely.
it is. They feel threatened. If you have
Abso-
knowledge, you're dangerous.
Absolutely.
I
This
don't
is-
want Walid. He
Bas-
has knowledge.
Absolutely. This is
So-
all over, unfortunately, the Arab world.
And until we respect those who are specialists in their field
Right. Subject matter
Trustworthy.
experts.
and trustworthy in their field, until we start respecting that, we have no place to go.
Absolutely.
We have no place to go.
Absolutely.
So politicians are not subject matter experts for when it comes dealing with this complex
Politi-
issue.
No.
Politics is a very dirty game.
No.
Look at the Arab world. When they go to meetings, for example, in the whenever they have meetings, look at them, their faces. And I have great respect for this Galabiya, which is, but this is not all.
What's the substance?
Background. Is he a graduate from Harvard, from IT, from where? From Yale? Where are the Egyptians? Where are the Arab world? The Egyptians, حبيبي, in the world والجلف والمش عارف ايه. They are there and they have built up states and 120 million
Educated
people.
many people. They
Capabilities.
they
You
were the
go now
professors and the
to
educators.
Saudi Arabia, all the doctors, many of the doctors, many of the educated are Egyptians. And if you read their books, if you read from Taha Hussein Hamdan, Ya Ammi, you cannot say no. This is something that the power is there, and the Americans, they don't know. Habibi, keep as is. Keep Masakin, the Egyptians, sit down, Bab al-Amara, in front of the house, let him drink tea. بس. Give him tea. That's all, and a piece of bread. بعدين فول مدمس. What is this? Is this enough? Is this enough? No, it's not enough. If you think of the future, it's very bad. It's very bad.
I never heard anybody speaking 4 or 5 generations plan ever before. So this is a very healthy approach. Instead of we have to solve this
Immediately.
like next week, we have to get everything back to. But this is a healthy, a long-term approach.
Absolutely.
I'm hearing first time. My hairs are
Rising.
rising like this. This is.
Yes.
هذا فضل من ربي. Wallahi, I wasn't expecting this. This is a.
Really?
We have to look generations over.
Plan ahead.
Plan ahead.
Plan generations, not look the next 5 years. No, look at the next 500 years.
طبعا.
Like that's what the Jewish people do. And you see that.
Doli, Habibi, this is Israel is an ally of the US. They have drawers from 1 drawer to 10 drawers. Solution: if something happens in Egypt,
صح.
you have 10 cents.
Yeah.
Take this drawer.
Plan A, Plan B, Plan C.
Bas, that's all. We don't want Sisi, we want Muhammad. Muhammad is ready. Muhammad doesn't, his wife, she doesn't want him, then we have Ismail. And it's going on like this. It's going on like
Part
this.
of planning.
Bas. Planning.
Now, speaking of the reframing of this conflict, I want to share something with you. And you, being Palestinian, having been born here, lived in this land, you will get what I'm talking about. This has been the subject of my studies. I freed up, after having been a professional for many, many years, an engineer and a businessman. I took 15 years of my life, did nothing else but focus on this conflict. Why it has not been solved over all these years. Okay, despite the fact that America tried, Sadat tried, Hussein tried, everybody was trying. Why hasn't it been solved? And to me, as a scholar or as a researcher, I will say, in this subject matter, and by the way, I have 3 books published on this topic, I saw that the way the conflict here in Palestine, Israel, if you will, the way it has been described and diagnosed has erroneous, what shall I say, it has so many flaws in the way it's been described, and that's why it's sustained and it continues. And from the Arab side, if we understand it properly, because we're the majority here, I mean, all the surrounding countries, I mean, this is, Israel is like you implanting a teeth in somebody's mouth, and the mouth is rejecting that teeth, no matter what you do. And those who accept, even those, the minority that say it's okay to abuse Israel, it's okay this and that, they're being opposed by the majority of the Arabs around them. So the whole idea is this. It started with how we are naming the conflict. What we're saying is it's Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Okay, that's what the big title. And it found flaw with that name. That exact name has flaw in it. Where's the flaw comes from? When you start by saying Palestinian, what is Palestinian? When you start saying Israeli, what is Israeli? In these 2 names, if we understand, as Arabs now, from our perspective, if we understand those at deep level, we will be able to put an end to this conflict. When you start with the Palestinian, you say, okay, so I started researching, so what is Palestinian? Okay, then some definitions say, oh, a bunch of tribes that lived in this land came from other islands in the Mediterranean, occupied here and lived in this land. And they were fighting the Israelites as they were coming from Egypt during Moses' time. So they were here, Moses and his people came, they were fighting them. Okay, how are these Palestinians described in the West? And they call them Philistines in the Western educational system. I found that the way, because I said, these people I live with in America, I live in America for many, many years. These are good people. They have good sense of what's right and what's wrong. Why does it, when it comes to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, they look the other way, as if it doesn't exist? Just say, when it comes to any other conflict, they rise and they say, don't do
What's
that.
happening now?
Yeah, in Ukraine and others.
For example.
Yeah, for example. So I found the root cause of that. And let me share with you what that root cause is. Philistine, that name, first of all, it is not mentioned in the Quran or in the Hadith of Rasulullah. Furthermore, it is not mentioned by any as any Muslim scholar belonging to Palestine. For example, we have Muslim scholars that are called Bukhari, نسبة لبخارى. We have Abu al-Hasan al-Basri, نسبة لبصرة. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, so on and so forth. So
Ghazali.
Ghazali. So many of our scholars are are named after the region. There's not a single Muslim alim that is named after Palestine. That's I started thinking why that is the case. It turned out that Philistine is a name mentioned only in the Torah and by extension in the Bible, in the New Testament and the Old Testament. So what context is that name mentioned? Because it was very important for me as a researcher to find out in what context that particular name is mentioned in those books. It turned out that it is mentioned in a context where it makes a Palestinian less than a good person. Okay, someone who fights God, someone who's against civilization, someone who's against God, and so forth. Because in those books, Israeli is someone who's very good, someone who obeys Allah, someone who wants good for the world, all these things. So that is interesting how the person who goes to church or goes to the synagogue think of Israel and think of Palestine.
Right. Subconsciously, it just something negative rings when they hear the
Or
Palestine.
Philistine in their mind in America. Something negative rings in their mind because it's like in our culture, something negative rings in our mind when we say Kuffar Quraysh and when we say Mu'mineen. جماعة المؤمنين المسلمين وجماعة كفار قريش. Even though Kuffar Quraysh were the family of Prophet Muhammad. Here is what happened after that. The church itself in America is teaching its people something very important to know.
Hello. أهلا.
So I mentioned something about the name Philistine. نحن نقول القضية الفلسطينية أو الصراع العربي الإسرائيلي أو الصراع الفلسطيني الإسرائيلي. I started searching a name. First of all, what I found is كلمة إسرائيلي. The church was adopting that. We're saying we are you Israel. All the Israel is dead. اللي هم اليهود يعني. And then they called the Israeli, they called the Jews Philistine. They called the Jews Philistine. Now, why is the church calling the Jews Philistine? I wondered, and I started researching that. And I found out that the reason the church was calling the Jews Philistine, and this was for many, many years, is that in the mind of the church, the Jews rejected Jesus. And by rejecting Jesus, they rejected Allah, they rejected God. And by rejecting God, it means that they are not good, they're bad people. They're like the Philistines who were fighting Bani Israel when they come here. Okay, so then what happened? Why did now they're calling the Jews Israeli? What happened? I'll tell you, it's a trick. It's really a trick made on the minds of the Arabs to subdue the Arabs and to subdue their own people. The leaders who did this are subduing their own Christian and Jewish people, and they're also subduing the Arabs so that they always have hegemony over this area. So what they did is, as I mentioned before, Palestine was not mentioned in the Quran or the Sunnah or the ulama. It was also not mentioned in a good context in the Bible. Okay, that's that name, Philistine. And even when you look it up in the most credible English dictionary, it's called the Oxford Dictionary. Look at the definition of Philistine, not Palestine, Philistine. You'll see what I'm talking about. Enemy of God and so forth. Then I said, okay, so now no wonder that that people in the West who claim to promote democracy, who claim to promote human rights, who claim to promote rule of law. They do all that, but when it comes to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, they look the other way, as if it doesn't, as all these values don't exist. Okay, so what happened that caused the church to call the Jews from calling them Philistini to calling them Israeli, and then called the Arabs Palestinian? Okay, so they switched things.
Oh my God.
Because the Arabs were never called Palestinian. During the Ottoman Empire that ruled this area 400 years, 400 years, they ruled this area.
Peaceful times.
The Arabs that were living here were not called Philistini. Only the Jews who were here were called Philistini. And the Arabs, what were the Arabs called? Arab القدس, Arab بلاد الشام. أنت عرب بلاد الشام. من بيروت أنت عرب بلاد الشام. من دمشق, من القدس, من
مصر وشام.
كل كانت اسمها مصر والشام. ضحكوا على مصر بقى. They tricked Egypt and they said, no, you know what? It should not Masr والشام. No, the kings of Egypt, we're not going to give you this title. We're going to now give you مصر والسودان. أنت ملك مصر والسودان. بعد ما كانت مصر والشام for thousands of years مصر والشام. Because as long as it's مصر والشام, nobody can do anything with this. من صلاح الدين لقطز لبيبرز خلاص مصر والشام. So anything that happened in Sham affects Egypt. Egypt sends an army, it gets resolved. Anything that happened in Egypt, Sham respond. For example, when the French came and occupied Egypt, Napoleon had to be there for 2 years and leave, directly go back to France. There was a ruler in Egypt called Klepper. Who killed him? A peasant from Aleppo, because Egypt extended all the way to Aleppo. He came walking on his foot, walking to Egypt, to Cairo.
Because it was his problem, what's happening in Egypt.
Yes, absolutely. He felt this is my problem now. And he went and he killed the guy. Okay, he killed the ruler because he knew that this is a foreign power and it's coming to affect our family, and this is our family and so forth. So this bond had to be broken. The West would not leave this bond alone because they felt it's against their interest. It had to be broken. So to break that, obviously there's no better way than separating those two regions, Masr and Sham. And there's no better way than taking what was a concept, fikr al-Sahyuniyya, that started 100 years or so. Actually, it started 200 years in America on the hands of Christian Zionism. There's something called Christian that nobody talks about, but that is in the background and feeds Jewish Zionism.
Of course.
Feeds
They are the rulers of the world now.
and support it with money, men, if necessary. Obviously, they support it with veto power in the UN. All of that.
Know-how.
Weapons, all comes. So that is what is happening in here. Now, let's go back to the question is, what happened that caused the Arabs now to be called Palestinian when they never been called Palestinians? Like I told you, under the Ottoman Empire, the ones who were called Palestinians were the Jews. And the Arabs were not called Palestinians. They were never called Palestinians. You're Arab from Sham or from مصر. مصر والشام عربي بس خلاص انتهى. أو أنت من عرب المغرب أو من عرب السعودية كذا.
Like in Europe today.
What happened that caused this trick to take place? In 1947, there was a resolution introduced to the United Nations to partition Israel. No, to partition Palestine. It was called, this region was called Palestine. So we want to partition Palestine. We want to partition Palestine between Arabs and Jews. Okay, fine. That resolution was introduced in the UN in November of 1947. 33 countries voted yes for the partition. 13 countries voted no for the partition. When you study who said yes and who said no and why, you will know the root of this conflict. Without studying that, you know nothing. The 33 countries that voted yes for the partition of Palestine were Christian majority countries, all of them Christian majority countries. the 13 countries that voted no for the proposition, for the resolution, were Muslim majority countries, except for 2 countries who were sympathetic to Muslims. One of them is Greece. This year, Greece voted with the Muslims that they didn't want that partition because they knew the ramification of what this means. So now we know that it was Muslim majority countries voting no, Christian majority countries saying yes. After the vote, and they started to try to implement that vote now, they said, okay, so what are we going to call it? We're going to call this Palestine? They said no, the English, because they're very devious and very tricky. And they have good minds. You have to respect your enemy, even if they have good minds. You give them credit.
So,
Credit is due. And those English, I definitely do give them credit for what they do to benefit themselves. And the way they do it is so smooth, and they make their enemy feel happy that they did it, even though it's against their enemy's best interest, but they make their enemy feel very happy.
That's the British until today.
Yeah. So what
They
they
never
did is, they said, okay, no, we're gonna call the Jews Israelis. But wait a second, we've always been calling them Palestinians. These Jews, they rejected God. No. I said, no, call them Israelis. They're gonna be Israelis, part of us. So now Jews and Christians, one hand. Okay, and then, so what are we going to do with the Arabs? Call them Palestinians. Call the Arabs Palestinians. The Arabs will be happy with that name because the Palestinians were here first.
Name.
So when they named them the Arab Palestinians, Arabs were so happy. Yes, we are the Palestinians. We belong to this land. They were never Palestinians. But what happened when you do that, you as the leaders of England and the West and so forth, your people will be sympathetic to Israel because Israel is the good guys in our Bible. We go to church every Sunday. We see that Israel is the good guy, Philistine is the bad guy. So despite all the atrocities that the Israelis do against the Palestinians, we're not going to really apply the rule of law, the human rights rules that we talk about, or democracy. We're not going to apply it to this. We're going to apply it somewhere else. And they tricked us, and we said, okay, yes, fine. We are happy with Palestine. We are going to liberate Palestine. فلسطين عربية فلسطين عربية فلسطين عربية. هي بلاد الشام عربية وليست فلسطين عربية. جزء من بلاد الشام محتل، أو جزء من بلاد الشام في ضيوف جم عليه علشان يبقوا عايشين هنا، والضيوف دول, those guests that came here, they are running away from the persecution of the church in Europe. Yes, we didn't persecute those Jews. They were persecuted somewhere else, but they're running here for cover. People are running here for cover. Why? Because the church was persecuting the Jews for 2,000 years. It's known fact from what happened in Spain, what happened in Russia, he said it, what happened in Germany, in Europe, they were always persecuted. Okay, so run here for cover? Okay, fine. Because we are Blad Sham now. We are not Palestine or Jordan. And of course, Sakis Biko divided this area for pieces to do this. So the solution is in uniting Blad Sham one more time. And that's the same exact thing that Salah ad-Din did. Before he liberated this from the Crusades 800 years ago, he started by attempting and liberate and bringing those warring factions. They were like this. 800 years ago, the Arabs and the Muslims were fighting each other. Some of them were having alliance with the Crusades. Some of them were not. But he started doing this, and then he came to Egypt, Salah ad-Din, and then took an army from Egypt to come and liberate here, and that's what happened. Today we have 4 countries in this area. In Sham, which was one entity, all those 4 countries are 1/3 of Egypt. يعني الأربع دول دول. جبل لبنان سموه دولة لبنان يا أخي. شرق نهر الأردن, which was desert, nothing in it.
أردن.
سموه المملكة الهاشمية الأردنية وكذا. وأنا أردني، أنا أفضل من هذا الفلسطيني، وأنا لبناني، أنا كنعاني، أنا كذا. فإحنا للأسف الشديد نستخدم لغة المحتل أو لغة المستعمر لتفرقنا ولا ندري بتاريخنا كما ذكرت. يعني أهم حاجة go back to our history, know our history, teach it to our children,
Unfortunately,
and that's how we solve
they
it.
don't want. Now look, an example happening in the last meeting to get Syria in the Arab League. تتعطلهم قطر. Only what Qatar. All the Arab world accepted. Who is Qatar? Qatar is the United States of America. زلمة. مين قالوا لهم انتوا كلكم all of you go there قولوا yes Syria has to get بس انت قطر stand there and say خلص يا راجل
احنا مجرمين يا شيخ.
we don't understand what's happening in this world.
لا والله
We do
مجرمين
not-
في حق انفسنا
بس
يعني.
بس
احنا
بس-
مجرمين في حق انفسنا.
أنا برجع the only thing is education. أنت you're a scholar.
Yeah.
If they see, for example, in Egypt that you're bad and you're not getting them on the right track, they will never get you on TV. They will
Yeah.
never give you a job. They will never care for you. They
Yes.
want to destroy you. يا بقولوا عنك CIA، يا بقول لك متخلف، يا بقولوا مش...
صهيوني، ده عميل، ده كذا.
هذا احنا they put these words بس كلمتين قول عنه عميل قول عنه شهيد فينيتو لا موزيكا انتهى الراجل عيلته وولاده ومرته هذا CIA هذا امريكان يا راجل. We need proper education. We need people to educate to get better schooling to understand the reality of this life. احنا we do not. Unfortunately. And I'm not against reading the Quran ولا I'm not against Christians ولا Muslims. Leave this at انت والله.
كله على دين الله يعينه.
الله يعينه.
مثل ما نقول هنا بالشارع.
Exactly.
كله على دينه الله
الله
يعينه.
يعينه. تعرف my wife yesterday
Yeah.
maybe she never did it in her life. She went to المosque في ليلة القدر.
ايه.
Many people. قالت لي I sat down
اوكي.
وهدول near me a woman talking in the phone والله وانا قالت لي what is this؟
انا مكمل
ايه قالت لي يعني she was stunned وهي يعني alright she prays بتلحق هذا معلش بس قالت لي ايه الاستسلام هذه؟ قلت لها شوف لي شرف ولكن انت في الحرم شو بتحكي عن اولادك وطبيخك وانا هون مال بالتلفون. هذا ان example. education.
Yeah.
That's all.
ان شاء الله.
وهذا it
This
will
is-
take time unless you get the proper people to put things for you, you know. Well, this is division. This is our way, and this is what we have to do. بعدين you will see hope. Otherwise, my friend, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Paying money. Okay, how much they have paid conferences in the Arab world? What's it called? بلاد الشام conferences only. How much money they have paid? Millions of dollars. بيجوك 100 واحد they talk and then فينيتو لا موسيقى. I wish أنا تعرف I have a problem. هذا this has been sold to Jews in 2004 this hotel.
I know the conflict that was in court. I
بس.
mentioned it.
All right, you understand. هذا هو. أنا the other day أجوني journal. They come every now and then from this and that and then. قلت لهم شوفوا لا أنا 78 years old. with 20 years in this conflict,
Yeah.
in the dark. I've seen many people like yourself.
Yeah.
You come here as if we're in a zoo. You listen to me, you take my picture and you go home. And you put an article because the editor sometimes says no. Take this out, take this
Yeah.
out. I never tell them. So any journalist putting down the bottom of the article's solution. What is the solution? This
Yeah.
conflict. Read طيب, this is a building, this is what happened nicely, and the Dajan is not willing to sell. He's a Palestinian, he loves Palestine. طيب وبعدين by the end, the Jews will be here within the coming few years. They will control the whole area. The other day I went to pay condolences to Latin Patriarchate because of the Pope passed away. فقلت له your gratitude. He knows me very well. And he passes here every
Yeah.
Friday to go to church. قلت له within the coming few years there will be the yeshiva home
Yeah.
and they will throw on you
Yeah.
potatoes or tomatoes.
Tomatoes,
قلت
yeah.
له now they split on me. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to cry in the future. قلت له solve this problem.
Yeah.
قال لي أبو أمير like that. I don't know what to tell you. قلت له لا, you're not doing your job. قلت له I'm a Muslim
Yeah.
by birth.
Yeah.
But into Christians, what are you going to do? The whole supplicant and all these things.
Yeah.
The Muslims leave them alone. And there and let them fight their own. Into
Yes.
Christians, where are you from this issue?
Yes.
I want to know.
Yeah.
He looked left. He couldn't say anything.
Absolutely, no, you're right. And
He
ما هم
couldn't.
يا اما متدروشين زياده عن اللزوم، متدروشين قوي قوي مع ربنا وما يميش ما يميش.
لا it's all pressures. كله pressures.
عليهم بريشر.
I told pressures from
من هدول.
here, from here, and from America, and from the
لا لا okay let me tell you why they're not acting the church, because they are saying we should collect all the Jews here. Christ will come back and they will be guided to believe in Christianity. They will convert to Christianity, and those who don't convert will be killed. That's their mentality.
144,000
Yeah.
هذا مورفين هذا
morphine.
هذا مورفين هذا.
آه.
شوف, I want to tell you something, unfortunately. All the heads of churches are impotent for me, what I say. They are not doing what they're supposed to do. Deep inside, هدول you see them in red ومش عارف ايش.
وبلاك.
Beautiful وفاتيكان but nothing. يا عمي, they are impotent. يعني they leave this Muslim alone. في ساحة عمر بن الخطاب alone. Nobody dare to give me a nickel to say what. I have 1.5 million shekels only for lawyers. Nobody. They don't want. يا عمي leave. أنا sometimes 20 years. I don't sleep at night. I wake up 3-4 times. ولا عمي, where is the Christian world? And I'm going home. بديش. يلا. Leave me alone. Fish. What is this? What is going on? Conspiracies. They are not up to their level of thinking that, yes, in the future, what about 20-30 years from now? It's 2004 كان في a patriarch who the director of the finance department, and
Yeah.
the whole conspiracies started in 1995, 96.
Okay.
They know what they want. They want this area. This is Christian. This is the main entrance to the old city, official. They want this. But they started on all these things
Okay.
until they got somebody in the church to
agree.
be the director of the finance department with a expatriate that I don't know what happened with him through all these conspiracies or blackmailing. They signed that we give this to a company registered in the Virgin Islands
Yeah.
for 99 years to be renewed for another 99 years for $1,250,000.
Oh.
Now I'm in.
Now, because you were the tenant of the.
I'm a protected tenant. I'm what's so called protected tenant. I have a contract for another 3 generations. But can I stay here 3 generations? Can my children?
You've been fighting, but your children may say, "We don't want it. We don't want the headache." You're a fighter, but they may not be. That's what you're saying. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So this will turn into a yeshiva. 20 years
Absolutely.
from-
This is the reality.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
for me, تعرف, the other day I was thinking, articles, to read articles and to put articles in newspapers, and I said enough for me.
Enough, خلاص.
أنا بقول one thing.
آه.
Unless the heads of churches, they meet on
آه.
the square
Yes.
and they say to the world and to the Israelis first, unless you give back this property to the church, we close all the Christian sites.
We close all the what?
Christian churches.
Uh-huh.
Finito la musica. No more tourism.
Oh no, if the church moves.
2 days, this problem will be solved, and they don't have any worries in the future. They are leaving this, the worries علي أنا على أبو أمير. Take this bullshit on top of your back. والله قاعد هناك. Every week a letter from this lawyer, and every week a letter from that. You did this, you did that. Why don't? وعليكم بعدين. I'm the only man that is going to solve this problem. $1,250,000. And the other hotel we.
You could have paid this money and
ولا
and
إشي.
have the 99.
ولا إشي. It's all conspiracy. It's all conspiracy. إحنا we have a problem. Problem fish vision.
Long-term
They
vision.
plan.
They plan ahead. There's no question that they do.
I'm
And it's-
going to court sometime within the coming few weeks. 4,000 pages. You should come into my office, and I will show you وراء المحكمة.
Documents.
4,000 pages
Who's going to
again.
go through 4,000?
شوف عرفني I don't want. He did وبعدين anti-Semitic all the articles in the newspapers will be and then he's against Jews, he's against that. ولك يا عمي off my back. What do you want from me? And not to mention they have sent to me many people in order to put me, conspiracies to blackmailing ومش عارف ايش وبتاع. Enough.
هنديلك فلوس يطلع. مش عايزين
take
خد فلوس
money.
ويطلع.
روح
Take some money and go.
This is not your problem. Take money, this is it, and leave. This is not your problem يا أبو أمير.
أيوة.
This is
You're
this is
fighting
the
the wrong
problem.
fight يا أبو
إحنا
أمير.
ولد church, we went along. وأنت Muslim, شو بدك? What's in it for you? What's in it for you?
So isn't this a problem for pretty much for this region? Money comes, people sell, they move in, and
تعرف what's happening? Yes.
that's what happened last
تعرف.
75 years.
And I will tell you one thing, هيك to give you an idea. In 1967, they have put a law called Law of Absentees. Law of Absentees. What does
Absentee
this mean?
ownership.
Ownership. What does this mean? Now, if you look over there, you will see Israeli flag on top of the Arab houses.
Oh.
What do? They come. Somebody staying in the house with his wife, an old man. Okay, they will tell him, look here. Now we want to buy. I tell him, look here. I'll put it straightforward for you. Your son is not here in America. Your daughter is married in Jordan. Your next boy is in Cairo. هدول, for us, they are absentees. You are living now with this old lady.
When you die, what's going to happen?
When you die, we are going to move in because your children
Are absentee.
are not here. So we offer you something, a good offer, like they offered me.
Yeah.
Stay until the last day of your life when you pass this away, and then we move in, and we give you a few dollars,
So much.
million, 2 million. Send them to your kids. Let them buy houses في عمان ولا في أمريكا. But the old man, he thinks his daughter, for example, is divorced. His son, bad business. أيوة, الله أكبر. He says, what's in it for me? طب أعطوني, give me the money. Until I die.
Yeah.
I pass out. One day I was in court.
Yeah.
And the Israeli lawyer, 4 hours debate.
Yeah.
When you did that, no.
Do they speak it in Hebrew or in English? Or
In Hebrew, and we have a translator in Hebrew.
Yeah.
So by the end, final analysis after 4 hours, the lawyer said, "Ya Abu Amir, خلاص, why don't you sign a contract with us?"
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
In the 4 hours, you have done this, you have done that, I turned to the judge. قلت لها, Your Honor, I want to tell you one thing. قالت, yes, Mr. Tajani. قلت لها, we are in court and this is to be registered. قلت لها, my father told me once a story. قال, what is the story? قلت لها, may I?
Tell me the story.
She said, yes. I told her, my father once told me, there was a Harun al-Rashid,
Big king, yeah.
this man, long time ago with money, women, sitting in the morning, drinking, and then women fucking them. That's his job. And all of them were sitting around him and with his consultants at the door. One day in the morning, he got drunk. Mahmoud, come here, one of his consultants. He said, yes, what can I do for you? He said, look here, you take this sack of gold and you go down to the village and you take the donkey, the white donkey out, and you take the donkey to the village and you tell the whole people in the village who can teach him to dance and read and write. And if you don't come back in the evening to say, yes, I found somebody within the coming 2 years, a donkey will sing, he will do that, I will chop your head. So the old man, this advisor, took the donkey down to the village. And
But
everybody
an
laughed.
impossible task.
Everybody laughed.
Uh-huh.
Donkey, who's going to teach him? At the end of the day, they found an old man like me sitting on the balcony with his wife. Doesn't have anything in his stomach. He heard him. Ta'al, ta'al, come, come, come. Get your donkey and get in the house. I am willing to do this for you. The donkey, after 2 years, will read, will write, will dance, will be polite. So he gave him the sack of gold, and the man was happy. Back to Harun al-Rashid. He said, 2 years, the donkey will come. Yani, expert. So the wife told him, well, like, what did he told her, look here, now we want to eat. And then I'll tell you the story. After dinner, she told him, what are you going to eat?
How are you
So
gonna
he
teach
laughed.
them? How are you going to teach
He
them?
said, look here, after 2 years, either I die, or the donkey will die, or Harun al-Rashid will die. Let us live now. And the judge was there. I said, look here, why should I sign a contract when there is a conflict between the church and these people? First of all, let this problem finish, and then I'll come back. I respect the law. I respect everything. I mean, في things in one's life only. في so many stories and so many things. If you collapse, then you're finished. تعرف I'm not a good Muslim because I'm a good Muslim with Himayo. I come here.
With the heart.
You find me. Shake here in the
بتشتغل
morning.
انت بتشتغل بايدك.
Sometimes I come here with a cognac in the morning in one hand, a cup of coffee in the other, and I speak to him.
Yeah.
Sitting here, I said, God, look here, Habib, you are my protege.
Yeah.
You are my protege. I'm talking to you without sheikh,
Yes.
without a priest, without anybody. Please put me on the right track. And there is no way that the only man on earth, or I don't want to say man, but he kept me until today talking to you, is him. 20 years. Conspiracies, blackmailing, back shape. I couldn't put a nail in the
He's
wall. in
carrying
the hotel.
a lot of weight because of this conflict, this court conflict.
May Allah help
Is-
you.
is
May
it
Allah
court
make it
conflict?
easy for you.
Court conflict.
And everybody is running away. Everybody is running away. They're not putting really their hand on the problem. What to do? But أنا بقول, I believe in God. Okay. And I'm trying my best because I believe that God is up there. He will not leave you. معلش, sometimes you think, well, I'm making money. لا 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 لا, this is no, no, no. He will not leave you. He will not leave your children. He will destroy you. It's a matter of time. They'll give him أعطيه الحبل. Give him time. Give him time. بس أنا بقول الحمد لله, نشكر الله.
الحمد لله على كل شيء.
اه
احنا نقوم بقى نوصل لغاية المسجد عشان نصلي
معلوم.
Today is April 21st, 2023. We are in Jerusalem.